In this concept, we're going to look at how to play different kinds of slides, all just on a single string, just so we can focus on the slide, the left-hand technique part of it. So let's start off by playing a note at the 9th fret on the 3rd string. So we talked about that right-hand thing, so you're going to have everything covered here and just pick with your index finger. And when you're playing slide, it's the slide's contact with the string that determines the pitch, not the string's contact with the fret. So when you play slide, you want to put the slide right over the fret, not in between the frets like you would if you were using your fingers. So if we want to go from the 7th to the 9th fret, there's a couple ways we can do it. If we want to hear two separate notes, then you'd pick the 7th fret and then slide up to the 9th fret. So sometimes you want to hear that first note, the 7th fret, it's just a grace note, like a quick coloring of the 9th fret. What you're really going for is this note, and what you want to hear is this. And with that, we start to get into the whole world of things that you can do once you're playing slide, because that grace note or accented, sort of colored way to play the note is a big part of what makes slide sound good. So you might try going back and forth between those two kinds of slides. Two distinct notes and a grace note. Now the next thing is that you don't have to slide to every note, and so you might slide and repeat a note that you've slid to. And that's the beginning of like 1,000 slide licks you've heard. And so notice I've got the right hand damping going the whole time, just using my index finger and sliding up and then repeating the 9th fret 2 more times. Now you can also slide the other way. And so I'm just hitting the 9th fret, again, making sure I'm right over the 9th fret, and pulling the slide back to the 7th fret. And I'm doing that left hand damping I talked about too. Got my index finger riding along the strings behind the slide. So now if you combine the upward grace note slide and the downward slide, you can get that lick, which is cool. And then let's say we go to the 2nd string. So I'm still going to be on one string, but I'm going to bring the thumb over, got my middle finger picking the 2nd string, and I'm at the 12th fret. And in this case, I'm still thinking like I'm in E, like I was for the first lick. And so I'm going to use the 12th fret, the 10th fret, and the 9th fret. And I'm going to start without sliding the note, and then slide in from the 10th fret to the 12th fret, and then do a 1 fret slide into the 9th fret. Now once you start to try this lick, you'll see why I've been going on about the right hand muting. Because if you did this without any muting, you would hear all kinds of other stuff going on, and you wouldn't hear the clarity of, you would hear the slide going down to all those, anytime you're setting up a lick to a note to slide into, you would hear all that stuff in between. Even if you're doing all of this, if you don't stop, even if you're muting with your thumb and your ring finger, if you don't stop the string with your with the picking finger in between, then you get all the, if you don't do that, then you hear all the stuff in between. And just part of what makes slide playing sound like slide playing, good slide playing, is that it has that articulation to it where you only hear the notes that you want to hear. And so one other thing, I've sort of done another kind of slide there, which is sort of a slow slide. In this case, I'm coming up to the 3rd of the E chord, and that's a place where you often hear a very slow slide like that. So here's a, now in this case, we could also start with a quick slide, a grace note. So there's a grace note slide. Here's a regular 2 separate note slide, and then a slow slide into the third. So that's 3 different ways to get up to a note. Quickly, 2 separate notes, and then a slow one. Now finally, let's go up to the high string. Bring the thumb over to the 2nd string and use your middle finger again on the high string. So now we're playing the root of an E chord. And you can also use stopping the string as kind of an effect or an intentional thing that helps to syncopate and accent things like this. And so in that case, I've done basically the same lick as down here. But instead of just sliding back, I'm going to do a stop and use the moment when I'm stopping the string to get back to the 10th fret. So the whole idea here is to focus on doing these few different kinds of slides, whether you keep playing 2 separate notes or using the slide as a grace note, sliding backwards, or cutting off the note with your right hand. But just focusing on those slide techniques on one string so that you can really get those moves down and also be practicing your right hand muting at the same time. And of course, the thing with slide is that you also need to be thinking about your intonation, right? Because you're not actually playing fretted notes. The guitar is not taking care of being in tune for you. So the best thing you can do is practice these things on their own, and then also practice them over a track so that you can practice them in context of a groove, but also so that you can be thinking about your pitch, your intonation while you do it. So let me just show you these moves over a track, and then you can practice them that way yourselves too.